Shalom, ladies and gentlemen. Today, as always, we will be talking about a weekly Torah portion. Our weekly Torah portion called VaYeshev, when Yaakov already at least hopes to settle in the land of Israel. But now we start to tell the story about his children, all this complex relationship, and obviously he cannot settle down. And our sages, a lot of our commentaries, they say that you cannot read just parashat VaYeshev, this weekly Torah portion, separately from other two. The parashas VaYeshev, Meketz, Vayigash, they tell one story of the complex relationship between brothers and Yosef, the story that actually lays down the foundations to the general culture, the tragedy, and the whole idea of theater of when relationships are expressed. But somehow our Torah separates into three separate portions. But truly, if we look at this story in general, we can see the strong structure that was defined by Aristotle in his book Poetics. What is a drama for? Obviously, to the modern theater, it's all takes its roots in the Greek tragedy. I don't know if Aristotle defined the story, and then we can see it define the idea of telling the story in the theater, the structure of tragedy, and then we can see it in our text. But maybe opposite, other way around, Aristotle learned the structure from the story of Joseph and his brothers, because the first step in Aristotle tragedy that mentioned in the book of Poetics is peripeteia. Peripeteia, it's a change of fortune in ancient Greek, and we see Joseph, he was a lucky child with a lot of attention from his parents, with an excellent exclusive coat, but then he was sold to slavery and he went all the way down. Yes, there were some ups in the house of Potiphar, but then we get to at the end of our weekly Torah portion, we get to the next stage of the tragedy. It's called Agnorisis, when he realized that everything is lost. And our weekly Torah portion ends with the moment that everything is lost for Yosef. He is sitting in a jail. Nobody remembers him, and it says that the butler that he predicted that he will go back to the Pharaoh's palace, he forgot about him. He is all alone, forgotten. He realized that maybe he could do something different, maybe he could make different choices and he wouldn't be in this situation. But then Aristotle said that you must give a good feeling for the person, otherwise they will not go to theater, they will not pay their money for the movies and for other performances. But you need whatever it's called in Greek, catharsis. There is no literal translation to this. This is a cleansing of emotions, when everything actually becomes a happy end, when things come together, and we have this moment, and when Joseph actually goes back from back up from the jail to become a prime minister in Egypt, and the moment of revenge comes, the brothers are coming, but finally everybody get together, general sin together with Joseph's father and all the brothers, the curtain, the show is over. But it would be right that it would be complete show, according to Aristotle, if it would be one weekly Torah portion, because we read in other weekly Torah portions, they have a logical end. The end when the land was corrupted, and then we read about the flood. The end of the next Torah portion of Noah, when Avram comes to the scene, and we start the story of Avram, and so on. Everything has a logical end. But our weekly Torah portion ends up with not even with a tragedy, with a disaster. This is it. No more future. Joseph all forgotten in the jail cell. But the reason why we have the separate Torah portions is because it's mentioned in the prophet Nehemiah that Ezra Soifer, who led the Jewish people back from Babylonian exile, he separated the Torah to the weekly Torah portion in order to establish the weekly reading of the Torah that will not be forgotten for the Jewish people. And Ezra tells us that the break in the middle is extremely important. Yes, Stanislavsky said that the theater begins from the closet when you leave your coat. But Ezra tells us that entr'acte, the break in the middle, is extremely important. And this is why he makes this break at the moment that it seems that everything lost, until we get actually to the catharsis. Because what he teaches us that we make our choices in our life. We could make better choices that will bring it to the different situation. But when you end up, you need to realize that your choices brought you to this situation, your freedom of choice. And you could invest in a Bitcoin or in Tesla, could go right or go left, could choose a different profession or marry a different person or send the kids to a different school, and the story would be different. But to realize this, you need a break. Break is extremely important. And this why Ezra Soifer decides to separate this story. This is not tragedy. This is not a performance art. This is a book of life. Good luck. See you next week.
Moment of Wisdom. Sub-brief and life-changing moments. Join us. Subscribe to Moment of Wisdom channels on YouTube, Telegram, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp.